Georgia Virtue presents the Let Me Tell You Why You're Wrong podcast.
Thank you for downloading episode 334. This week we have Danger Will Robinson, a deadly inflation, outlefting the left, a historic 17 minutes, importing organized crime, Vive Liberté No More, Cash App in the Clink, the Federal Bureau of Incompetence, and begging the government to parent. I'm Dave Roberts. With me is my partner in this endeavor, Ken Pullen.
Hey, Dave. How are you?
I am on the right side of the grass, brother. As we record, we're recording Saturday morning.
Yeah, right before college football kicks off.
So you have to wear like two different shirts today. You have to wear black and red at noon, and then you go into the Georgia Tech game. So you have to change shirts on the way.
Yeah, but I'm not going to the Georgia game, so just going to the Tech game for my daughter. What we will do for our daughters.
Especially this weekend. It is Labor Day weekend, and Atlanta likes to cram as much as they can into like 2 square miles of the city.
Isn't that crazy how they do that on the same weekend?
Yeah, you have Dragon Con. You have the college football kickoff at, I'll keep wanting to call it the Dome at MBS. You have the Georgia Tech game, which typically is not a huge draw, but
I think it'll be empty tonight, honestly, just because all the other stuff going on.
It's possible, but after beating FSU the way they did in an exciting manner, I told you before we hit record that I caught the end of that game at the Sky Club as I was heading to Michigan, and all the FSU fans were just dejected. They had to make the walk of shame past everybody else that they've been hooting and hollering for an hour before that. I actually had a couple friends and their wives who were at that game in Dublin. They turned it into a vacation. They spent a week in Ireland. And,
I know. That would have been a fun trip
game
to go on. Yeah, it would have been a lot of fun.
Oh, they said that the place was just full of FSU fans.
Oh, really?
And there was one of my brethren there, apparently a guy in blue and orange, a Florida fan, and just giving the FSU fans hell. I mean, we can only brag because as of recording, we're undefeated, but we got to take on Miami at 3:30.
No, that's going to be a good game.
So by the time the show drops on Labor Day, everybody will already know.
I think Florida's going to win this weekend, though. I really do.
From your lips to God's ears.
I do. I think Florida wins. And I didn't realize this.
It's also Gay Pride or Black Gay Pride weekend. I can't remember which it is. I'm not being. Yeah, I'm not. No,
you're just stating the fact.
But there are 2 different weekends that they say do a Black Gay Pride. But I've been in Atlanta. We were going to a comedy show that we actually ended up walking out of. It was Jim Jeffries. We walked out of it. He came on stage drunk, railing about how stupid Americans are with guns and stuff like that, and we left.
Oh God,
but
it's disgusting.
We were at Fogo. And you see a Klingon walk by, and then a guy wearing a jersey from whatever school was, and that was at the kickoff earlier that day. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And it's like, my personal conspiracy theory on this one is Atlanta does it on purpose. I understand Dragon Con is private, but it drives the prices of hotel rooms way up, and the occupancy tax is a percentage, not a flat rate. So if they can get those typical $200 a night hotel rooms to go up to $1,000, they make 5 times the tax on that room. And if you spread it out, you sell the same number of rooms, but the prices won't be high because there's plenty of availability.
Yeah, maybe so. We'll see. Labor Day, I didn't realize this, but it was signed into law back in 1894 by Grover Cleveland, which is on Monday. So that was a nice holiday. I didn't realize this was I guess I sort of did, but it came out of the labor movement back in the 1800s where people were working 12 hours a day and kids were working, and the people finally revolted and walked out of their jobs. And that's what sort of the federal government said, okay, we're going to make this holiday and give people one day off.
That is the governmental version of morale is low in the office. Let's have a pizza party.
Yeah, right. But it also signifies the start of fall. I think we're going to have some cooler weather next week in Georgia. So I told you I was in Maine all of last week. It was so nice. I was on a business trip, but it was 65 at night and 75 during the day. Just super nice. So hopefully we get some of that weather here in Atlanta shortly.
Michigan was a little warmer, but like the Michiganders up there, because it was high 80s, low 90s, but a lot less humid than it is down here. And they're up there dying. And I'm like, what are you guys complaining about? I'm in a suit and stuff. I'm like, what's the problem?
And then other final note I had was I didn't realize this is sneaking up on us, but Trump and Harris are debating on September 10th. So that's coming up in a week and a half, I guess. That is going to be
Such
the debate
a
of all
debacle.
debates. We'll get more into the election
Well, yeah,
later.
we'll get more into how smart she is.
But that's coming up pretty soon.
And I keep hearing Trump surrogates. He doesn't need to prepare. He doesn't need to prepare. No. What someone needs to do is act as Kamala Harris and do a mock debate. Then somebody stand behind him with a wiffle ball bat. And every time he tries to talk over her, smack Trump in the back of his head with a wiffle ball bat.
I think it's going to be the same format as before, where
cutting the mics out.
Yeah, I think they're going to cut the mics off, which I think is an advantage.
But if he continues to talk or make faces or whatever, the camera's going to be trained on him.
Yeah, but Trump wanted the mics cut off, is what I'm hearing, and Harris wants the mics on because I think she realizes that would occur, and that's going to make her look better. So yeah, we'll see what the format is coming up on the 10th.
It'll be interesting.
Yes.
Hopefully it'll be more interesting than another story we're going to get to later. But let's start with a couple scary ones. We have Stuck in Space.
I know. I was talking to my friends last night about this. So Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams are stuck in space. They went up to the International Space Station a couple weeks ago, and they were supposed to be there for a week. They're going to be up there.
I thought it was a couple months ago. They were supposed to be up there for a week.
Yeah, but I guess originally they were supposed to be up there for a week. They're actually going to have to be up there for 6 more months. Like, how do you mentally? I guess you have to mentally prepare for things that go wrong. But good Lord, can you imagine going up there for a week trip and then all of a sudden they tell you got a half a year in the International Space Station? I cannot imagine that.
Yeah, but it's not like being stuck at an airport when the computers go down, Delta.
I don't know. I mean, it's just 2 of them that are stuck up there.
Well, they're not alone.
I know, but they're still on the International Space Station for 6 months.
There's food, there's O2, there's water. It's not like they're going to run out of clean underwear or something like that on a business trip.
I guess they've been trained to do this there. I mean, they didn't just pluck these people off the street. So I guess they were trained, but still, I can't imagine going. Yeah, you're going up there for a week and then you end up 6 months. And maybe they liked it. Who knows? Who knows what kind of people they are? They may like stuff like this, but I know I couldn't do it. I think
it was one of the Kelly brothers that spent a long time at the ISS. Mm-hmm. And of course, you don't have to necessarily learn to walk again, but walking isn't the easiest thing after you've been in microgravity for months.
Oh, I can't imagine.
You also experience time differently the further you get away from gravity, because theory of relativity. Gravity affects the passage of time. It stretches time out. So the higher gravity you are, the slower time passes. The less gravity, the quicker time passes.
Yep. And so it's there's 9 people up there total with these 2 people. So there's not a ton of people, but there are enough people to keep them comfy.
Yeah. How'd you like to hate 7 of them?
I know. Do you realize this? I just looked it up too. That this ISS, International Space Station, orbits Earth every 90 minutes at a speed of 17,500 miles per hour. Good grief!
Can't you just hear their spouses sitting in the first day of school? Like, well, his father was supposed to be here, but he's at work.
How does it go around the Earth every 90 minutes? That is crazy. It's going that fast. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's in free fall.
Yeah, whatever it is, it's going fast.
It's in free fall. So as it falls towards Earth, it's high enough that essentially the way I've heard it explained, it's high enough that it keeps falling past the horizon. So it's in free fall. It's not truly weightless. It's the same thing happens when they do the vomit comet. They take you up and go into a negative G dive, and you bounce around the inside of the 737 or whatever they use, and then pull back out of it. It's the same thing as being in free fall. If you were skydiving and didn't have any wind, it would feel the same way. Well, skydiving, you feel the same way for about 90 seconds, and then it'd feel a lot different.
Very interesting.
So, sad story at Delta. This is at the TOC, Technical Operations Center.
Yep.
2 employees were killed by an exploding tire.
Yeah, this was last Tuesday morning, too. Yeah, I've got a lot of friends that work at Delta. You probably do, too. And a couple of them were very close to this explosion in the facility.
I've got a friend's kid who this happened to in the Air Force. So, obviously, these tires are under a lot of pressure. They have a lot of wear and tear every time that giant metal tube hits the ground.
Yep.
It cracks. It typically cracks the hub, and when the hub explodes, I guess it implodes, and nothing really happens. But when the tire exploded, it threw shrapnel and killed these 2. It was Mirko Marweg, 58, and Luis Alejandro, 37.
Yep. And then another guy was injured that lives down in the town I'm in. I think he's still in the hospital. He's in critical shape. But so the way that one of my friends explained it is, this was a lot of there were a lot of errors, I guess, as part of this. So the way he explained it to me is when the mechanics take the tire off the plane, they're supposed to deflate that tire right away and pull out the air tube. And then the tire goes over to this other place where it's then broken down and taken apart and, repaired and fixed. Sound like this tire was taken over there. It wasn't deflated. Then these guys then, they needed a part off of this tire, some lug nuts, it sounded like. And these 2 guys that were killed were sitting on both sides of the tire, and it's fully inflated, which it shouldn't have been, but it was fully inflated. The one guy that lived was actually holding the tire up. So he's standing at the end holding the tire up so they could take these lug nuts out. And as they took the lug nuts out, it quickly just exploded because the pressure, the amount of pressure in this tire is crazy. So the tire explodes, like you said, the metal shrapnel comes out. It actually sounds like the shoulder off one guy, and the other guy was decapitated. I mean, it was just a gruesome scene. But, there's going to be a lot of investigation at Delta on the safety steps that were missed to allow this to happen. And a lot of it, they say, has to do with overtime. A lot of these guys are working 12, 14, 15 hours a day. Yeah, it just sounds like a lot of safety procedures and protocols were not followed. But, man, this is so sad for these people's families. I
talk to people
getting a phone call
about this all the time. When you have things that are dangerous that you're handling, I don't care if it's a venomous snake, a firearm, or with a lot of us, when you're at work, it takes losing fear for half a second to end up dead.
Oh, I know, exactly. Yep.
Is you get complacent. People do it with firearms. People do it with, I like to say, because I'm a amateur herpetologist, so I watch a lot of snake videos and stuff like that, and watch people milking snakes, and that's the first thing they say is, the second you turn your head, you're gonna get popped.
Yep.
And it's a medical emergency if you do. In the case of my buddy's kid, I can't remember. It's something similar. Obviously, the tires on a Air Force jet are not under the same pressure that a jumbo jet is under. But it blew him across the hangar, and apparently it left a Wile E. Coyote style dent in a toolbox that he hit. The dent was perfectly his outline.
Oh my goodness.
Messed up his knee. I think he's going to be medically retired, but he lived. And this is scary. This is very scary because you think it's a benign thing. All of us have changed tires on the side of the road. We don't think about it, or have inflated our tires. Nowadays you get the warning light that annoys the living piss out of you.
Will not go off. Tire pressure monitor sensors, TPMS.
So yeah, it's happened to people. It usually doesn't kill them, but people who aren't very savvy on cars or something like that, and they don't read the maximum pressure on the side of the tire, and use an air compressor, keep putting air, and eventually air will find the weak spot and explode.
Yep.
But I really feel for the families. I feel for the coworkers, and I know there's a joke that people make, especially in the technical field, is is be the reason for the safety brief. And this is the sad conclusion of that idea, is be the reason for the safety brief, is they're going to review a lot of procedures.
Oh, yeah. No doubt. There'll be a lot of changes after this.
It's going to be the old school gym teacher teaching driver's ed, where they show all the gruesome videos of accidents, of what can happen if you drink and drive, what can happen if you speed and stuff like that. Is I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't show some of the gory images that are captured.
Yep.
Or at least the video of watching these guys get blown by a tire. You think about getting sucked into a jet engine, which does happen from time to time. You think about getting run over by a tug. You think about all these other things that can happen. You don't think about a tire being that dangerous, but yeah, it's all an explosion is control, is a rapid release of pent up energy. Yep. And that's what a tire is. It has all this energy pushing on the outside, and once it finds a way out, kaboom.
Very true.
Very, very sad, very scary. All right, so Trump on IVF, in vitro fertilization, and abortion in Florida.
Yeah, take the first story. So Trump last week said in an interview with NBC News last Thursday that if he was elected, his administration would not only protect access to IVF, but would also have the government or insurance companies cover the cost of the expensive service for American women who need it. He said, we're going to be under Trump administration. We're going to be paying for that treatment, Trump said, before adding, we're going to be mandating that the insurance company pay for it. I don't know about you. I'm not opposed to IVF, but IVF only works about 20% of the time, and it is outrageously expensive.
Prohibitively expensive. So for Trump to come out and say he's going to mandate insurance companies to pay for a service or a procedure that only works 20% of the time, who in the world is advising this guy still? Well,
can you imagine what this is going to do to insurance?
Oh yeah, but we went through this. We tried to have kids for quite a while. I like to tell the story. My wife had a meeting in Chicago, and it happened to be during the dates of conception. So I flew up to Chicago, used my pass, and flew up to Chicago. She actually knew somebody in the Braves organization, got tickets to the Braves Cubs games, which was awesome at Wrigley Field. But we went through that. It was cheaper to fly places, to keep trying. The Clomid, which is a drug that increases ovulation, increases odds. But when we looked at IVF, I think it was $30,000 a pop.
That's what I've heard before. Yeah, it's over $25,000.
This is over 10 years ago. So I can only imagine it's probably 50 now. It's more if you have to get a donor egg, because you essentially have to pay a young woman to take Clomid and then go have a procedure to have egg harvested. So that's expensive. Obviously, if you're a young woman to go through that, you're going to be well compensated, plus the expense of the medical procedure to have it done, plus the drug.
And I feel for people. I feel for people that cannot conceive and want to go through this. There's two. This is not one of those procedures that we should be mandating insurance companies to pay for. And then if you look at it from the other angle, I know a lot of Catholics that don't believe in IVF services and are really upset because Trump would say, you have to mandate this. And there's Catholic hospitals in the United States. It's just like, for abortion, there's Catholic hospitals that are not going to cover this, or they would not perform these procedures because they don't think it's ethical.
He's not mandating that they perform the procedure. He's saying the insurance companies have to pay for it. So me, as someone who is childless, who evaluated the cost benefit of it, and looked at it and said, "Well, we can finance it for you." So great, we're going to go into $100,000 in debt.
Yeah, and it's like 20% at a time.
Right. It's not 20. You do it 5 times, so it's going to work. It's now 100. No, that's not how percentages work. It's 20% every time you try.
Yes, right. Yeah, you don't build up. Yeah, so I don't know. This is just...
It's
It's
not
Trump
about
shooting
the,
off the hip. Yeah, it's Trump shooting off the hip again.
It is. It's not about the ethics of IVF. It's not about people wanting to have kids or anything like that. The question is, why should we have to pay? Because insurance companies don't do anything for free. Why should I have to pay for someone's IVF that I couldn't afford?
Yeah, I mean, it's like when you cap. Look, I feel bad for people that are on insulin, but when you cap the cost of insulin at $20 a vial, then the insurance company's not eating that cost. They're just adding it to everybody else's insurance at that point. And again, the way to bring insurance down is not to get the government more and more involved in insurance, is to get the government out of things like this and mandating rules around what they'll pay and how much they'll pay and all that stuff. Yeah, so I don't think this would ever get through, but I don't know who Trump's playing to in this regard. I think he's struggling right now with the abortion issue, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But, this was just a weird policy that it came out, and I don't think it gains him any votes. Like, I don't know when he says this, I don't know what vote he thinks he's gaining from this. Just like on the abortion front, you're not gaining.
He doesn't think strategically, politically strategically, I should say. He obviously has a strategic mind when it comes to business, how to make money. But when it comes to politics, he doesn't understand, as Will Ferrell said, doing George W. Bush, strategery. He doesn't understand that. He understands he's on a global scale,
right,
but he doesn't understand how to play the political game. And I know that's what people love about him, but that's 40% of the electorate love him for being. The rest, that 20% in the middle, you have 40 that are die-in-the-wool blue Democrats. You have 40 that are going to vote for anybody with an R after their name. And then you have 20 in the middle that...
Yeah, it's not even 20 at this point, but I get your point. Yeah, 100%. It's
you're not pulling anybody over. Now, let's get on to the abortion thing. He basically said that 6 weeks is too early. And he's talking about his home state. Yeah,
so Florida's got this initiative on the ballot in November. And the initiative basically says you can have an abortion up to birth. And this is the problem with it, right? So Florida has a 6-week ban. They've got a ballot on the initiative in November that seeks to clarify and say you can have an abortion at any time up until birth. And he was asked about this week, and he said he was supporting the initiative to basically make abortion legal at any point within Florida. And yeah, that blew up pretty big because, he's flip-flopping on the abortion issue again.
Well, I don't think he's flip-flopping. What he said is there should be no national law on it, but unfortunately, he's not very good at nuance.
Yes, the nuance. He's that's a good way to put it.
Within my home state, I would support this initiative or that initiative.
Yeah, he'll say he'll vote in favor of the amendment. And the amendment allows abortion up to the time of birth. So he's putting his stamp of approval on that amendment. So just, I guess it is nuanced again, right? So he's saying, I don't support 6 weeks. I may support 10 weeks. But I'm also not supporting this amendment to keep it at 6 weeks. So this has riled a bunch of conservatives again. Eric Erickson came out pretty hard against him. And it's not that, look, I get the nuance to this and what Trump's trying to do. But on a week where Kamala and Tim Walz are out there making a fool of themselves in an interview where illegal aliens are taking over, counties and cities in the United States, he's talking about IVF and abortion when he should be talking again about the economy and about illegal immigration and these, and what's going around the world. So he's still not sticking to what is going to get him over the hurdle in November. And
you cannot out-left the left.
Yeah, because you're not winning any vote. Like, okay, so if Trump comes out tomorrow and says, I'm in favor of abortion up till the baby's born, he's not pulling over any left. Like, people on the left are still not voting for him. Like, none of those people are waking up tomorrow going, okay, yeah, I'm going to vote on President Trump now because he believes the same thing the vice president believes. Nobody's voting on him. All he's doing is weakening his base. And there's going to be people, and I know my hardcore MAGA friends don't believe this, there are going to be people that leave that blank and don't vote on him because how he's talking about IVF treatments, and how he's talking about abortion, and how he's not focusing on issues that really care. And I had a lady last night just irate that I said, I think Harris has a chance of winning. Well, it's because Trump's not focused. He's not focused on the issues that everyday Americans care about. And all he's got to do, like we've talked about all the time, immigration, illegal immigration, and the economy. That's all you have to talk about. Those 2 bullet points.
Get us out of foreign wars.
Yes. That's
Cut
all
taxes,
you have to talk about.
Secure the border.
That's all you have to talk about. And he continues to do, and I think he needs to stop. I mean, the routines he does, the stand-up routines where he's going all around the country, I don't think is helping. I think he needs to, I think where Biden ran a basement campaign a few years ago, I think Trump needs to run the basement campaign. Like literally just stop talking and let Harris and Waltz make fools of themselves, which they'll do if they continue to talk.
He talks to people like he's sitting around the kitchen table.
Mm-hmm.
And while I appreciate the sentiment with that is, oh, we're getting the real version. No, what he does is he keeps no thoughts internally.
Yes, I know.
This should be a thought he should be having with himself, and maybe a discussion he should be having with his family and certainly with his advisors. Should I say this? And I guarantee you, everyone would be like, no.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating because he's got a chance to win. And I know we give President Trump a hard time. And it's because he's got a chance to win and he's not seizing the opportunity. And if this would have been against Biden, nobody cares. Trump was going to kill President Biden in an election. I mean, it wasn't even going to be close. But Kamala has energized the base. I mean, I saw this week numbers of new registered voters this week in Georgia has exploded. I was in a bookstore in my county yesterday, and the leader of the local Democrat Party, we're in an 85-15 county, 85 Republican, 15 Democrat county. She's out registering Democrats in our county because she knows if she gets another 100 votes in Pike County, then Harris may win Georgia. They are fired, and she would have never done that in previous years. But they know she's got actually a chance to win Georgia now because of these missteps. That's what's so frustrating about the process is nobody just
because we're in football season. Let's use this analogy, and this was like being a political observer, and I'm sure listeners feel the same way. It's like watching a football game where you can see the open receiver. Everybody sees the open receiver.
Yeah, you're about to score.
And,
you're in the red zone.
All you have to do is the quarterback has to make a very easy throw, hit this guy that's wide open. He can walk into the end zone, and we're all yelling at him. It's right there.
Yeah, it's right there.
It's right there. And then he throws an interception. You're like, what the hell were you thinking? Why'd you throw into triple coverage when you had somebody open?
Yeah, we're in the red zone. We're about to score. We're about to win the game, and we commit one of these stupid penalties. And it's like every time he talks about something other than those key issues, he's committing a penalty, and it's moving him backwards. And the media jumps on every single one of them. I mean, Kamala and Tim Walz could do anything they want, but the media seizes on every little thing that Trump says. And that's just, it is what it is. And look, the base loves it because the base can say, look at the media picking on Trump again. But again, those soccer moms up in North Atlanta, those people up in Michigan and Minnesota and Pennsylvania, it means something to them. It doesn't mean anything to Republicans in rural Georgia. They could care less. That's what people just are not seeing. That's what my friends are not seeing.
What he needs to say up in Michigan, Ohio, all the Rust Belt is, I want to bring industry back to the United States. I want to increase union jobs. I want these cars being manufactured here. I don't think electric is the way to go. They're not selling. Let's start making internal combustion engines great again. Let's start turning cars out. Let's get people back to work. Let's get Americans driving. And that's the message he needs to be putting out in the Rust Belt is go to West Virginia and say, we need coal. Coal feeds the power in our country. We have no electricity without coal. It would take decades to build enough nuclear facilities. And honestly, wind and solar just aren't viable right now.
No, wind is definitely not. I think solar is more viable than wind, but yeah, definitely solar's not. I mean, wind's not.
Well, the square footage it takes to generate electricity with solar panels, you essentially have to take Field of Dreams. You have to mow down corn to put up put up these panels.
Yeah, you're losing farmland when you do that a lot of times. Yep.
And you're losing thousands of acres in order to generate the same thing that a coal-fired plant can do with about 10 acres. Yeah. And you can have perfectly good farmland all around it. Now, do I have hope that one day that the Musk's vision of having solar panel shingles on the roofs be outstanding? Do I think that there's a possibility of a fusion reactor that you can that's a generator outside your house? Sure, I think it's perfectly possible. Do I think we can have hydrogen-based cars that put off no emissions? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely we can. Is it viable in the next 10 years? Absolutely not. Those are all things that can happen and will happen eventually. You and I may not be alive for it, but those things will happen eventually, and the market will push it, not government. And that's the problem with what's happening in places like Detroit right now. And that's what he needs to be hammering is, I want these factories running 24 hours a day. I want to add jobs. I want to put people to work. And that's the message that you take to blue collar folks in the Rust Belt. And I was just there. And I'm listening to the folks, and outside of a few Harris Wall signs, I really didn't see a whole lot. I expected to see a lot of them. Now, signs don't vote. So what happens when they actually get in the voting booth, I have no idea. But the values espoused by the people that I talk to up there are the same values that we have down here, but they've been snowed by their union overlords to say that Republicans want to take your job from you, want to take your health insurance from you, want to kill your kids and beat your dog. And they fall for it, but these folks have the same values we do. They want to work hard. They want a job. They can work for 30 or 40 years, retire, and then go live a good life. I mean, some of the houses through the people I talked to, Connie's family, they bought mom's house, and they live in the same house for 2 or 3 generations.
Yep.
All right, let's get on to the 17 minutes of infamy.
Did you listen to all of it, by the way?
No.
I did earlier today.
You woke up Saturday morning and got yourself.
I went out and rode around in the car for 18 minutes and listened to this.
Yeah. Oh, I was picturing you with a bowl of
latte.
Fruit Loops.
Yeah, I went to Starbucks and got some kind of frou drink.
Yeah, a bowl of Fruit Loops, sitting in your robe, watching the Harris Walls interview. No, I read a good
look,
bit of it.
I listened to it. It's as usual. The interviewer was really kind of, she tried to hit a couple points, but it was never, it was a softball interview, and it was only 18 minutes, and who knows how much of it actually got edited out at the end of the day because it was pre-recorded. The biggest thing I saw is she continues to flip-flop. Back in 2019, she said she would ban fracking. She made it very clear she would never ban fracking in this interview. That's a huge flip-flop, and that's for Philadelphia because she's got to win that state.
It's also it's also semantics.
Yeah, but back in those days, they made her raise her hand, and she said, would you ban fracking? And she said 100%. So,
what I'm saying is she can get around it now and say, I won't ban it. However, the license fees would be so expensive that nobody can possibly afford to do it.
Yeah, but she's not. Yeah, but she's coming out in support of fracking at this point. She's not even. Yeah, but that was one big one. And then, back a couple of years ago, back when she ran the first time, she said that she wanted to decriminalize illegal immigration and not do anything with the people that were crossing illegally. And she said this week that, she said we need to prosecute people that cross the border illegally. And she said she spent 2 terms as Attorney General of California prosecuting transnational criminal organizations. So she went hard on illegal immigration. She pushed on, she criticized Trump for killing the bipartisan border deal. Yeah, so she went hard on a border, like tough on the border and tough on illegal immigration and soft on that fracking stance. So she's reversing all these positions she had back in 2019 and 20. That was kind of, that was the 2 biggest, I think, highlights out of the interview.
Keep playing her words over and over and over again. This goes back to your point of the basement campaign. Keep playing her words over and over. I would buy as much airtime as I could in Pennsylvania and run the video of her raising her hand saying, I would absolutely ban fracking.
Yeah, you would think. You would think you would do that. You know, Tim Waltz looked like a clown beside her. She couldn't even come to her. This was her first interview. She couldn't even come to her first interview without, Tim sitting there. And he said a few things, but nothing he said really made sense. They asked her what she would do on her first day. She didn't give any. She talked very in general terms about her first day in office, which most candidates, first day in office, they say, I think Biden, when his first day in office, he said, I'm going to undo all of Trump's stuff that he did around the border. She gave some kind of generic answer, like we're going to help the middle class and kind of jumpstart the economy and all this kind of stuff. So nothing really on that. And then they asked her, she started talking about over the last decade, we've been in this, kind of economic funk, and we've been in this bad position the last decade. And the lady interviewing her did say, well, by the way, you've been there for the last 4 years. And she really didn't have a good answer for that. She's just not good on her feet answering questions.
At some point, she's going to have to say, I was the vice president and not in charge of anything.
Yes.
My role as vice president is to be the spare, to stand by. Yes, officially as president of the Senate, and yes, I did put in some tie-breaking votes, and that she needs to address. But otherwise, she has to say, look, I signed on the ticket. I worked for Joe Biden, and behind closed doors, we may disagree, but when he says this is my decision, my job is to stand up and say, yes, sir, and execute. I mean, you can hit her with it and say, well, it was that bad, why didn't you resign? But she can say that there are policy differences between us, but my role was to keep my opinions private and in public support everything the president says he wants to do or needs to do. And that was my job, and that was my role, and I'll expect the same from Tim when I am president. So something like that.
Yeah. She did say she would appoint a Republican to her cabinet. So Jeff Duncan has got I guess him or Tim Kissinger potentially has a job in the upcoming cabinet if she wins. Yeah, but it's just an 18-minute interview that was edited and recorded. That's not like a real interview would be you stand in front of the press corps and you get questions fired at you that you don't know what's coming. That's what she should have done instead of this. Who knows what they
or the sit downs Trump did. Did he do one at halftime at Super Bowl or before the Super Bowl?
Yeah, and it still didn't even look good. I mean, she did a terrible job with this, and they edited the daggum thing.
Yeah, but Trump would sit down live. One of the funnier things, after the last night of the DNC convention, Gutfeld came on after it. It was a live show, and he says, Donald, you got my number, call me. They come out of break, and Donald Trump's on the phone, called him. I mean, that's the amusing stuff that I really like about Trump is he's like, well, call me, you got my number. So he picked up the phone and called him. It's like, yeah, I'm watching you, and stuff like that. That's the stuff that the human side that we like about him. Kamala is not likable. She's socially awkward. That's where the laugh comes from. She's not just a giggling idiot. The laugh comes from, it's her compensation for being socially awkward.
Yep.
I guarantee you she was never particularly popular in school. I mean, she's not a likable person.
No,
her
she's
staffers
really not.
say she's a horrible tyrant.
Yeah, she's not likable.
She creates a toxic work environment. And I'm not saying that Trump doesn't create a toxic work environment, because to say he's the greatest person I've ever met, and the next day he says something Trump doesn't like. He's a horrible person. I've never liked him. I shouldn't have put him on my cabinet. And he's fired.
Yeah. I mean, we can move. I mean, it's just like
yeah. We need to move on to Aurora, Colorado is overrun with illegal gangs.
Venezuelan gang members. Did you see this? It was Venezuelan gang members. They've basically taken over 2 apartment buildings within the city limits and going through each room, knocking on doors. They've got guns and weapons, and it's just an organized criminal effort in this town to take over buildings at who the heck knows what Colorado's doing? But, Colorado basically welcomed all these illegals into their state and into these cities over the last
the governor's
4 to 5 years.
blaming Governor Abbott of Texas for unloading his illegals.
Yeah, but where's he
other
supposed to
places around
send?
the country.
Is Texas supposed to just keep everybody?
Now, I will tell you, you start trying to beat doors down in Texas, there's a much higher likelihood of a shootout. But yeah, what they're doing is they've run the property management out. They go banging on doors, door to door, and collecting quote unquote rent, which is protection money, extortion.
Yep.
And this is the sort of stuff that, we dramatize it in great film, The Godfather. We dramatize that sort of stuff, but there's also an air of civility to their criminal stuff. This is straight out of Caracas. Beat the door down. If you don't pay us, we're going to kill you.
Yep, that's what it is.
There was a resident that was being interviewed, and she says, we called 911 and nobody comes. The cops are afraid to go in there. They're outgunned.
Yeah, there's no way if I was a police officer out there, I would go into a bunch of Venezuelan gang members with guns. That's not going to work out well for you.
Look, I hate to say this, but we need Elliot Ness to be dug up and put back on it. Is go gangbusters, literally gangbusters. With Bonnie and Clyde, when they finally got Bonnie and Clyde, they didn't wait. They didn't arrest him. They lit him the hell up. It was the safest thing to do for everybody because it was going to end in a shootout, and they ambushed him. They didn't wait to say, hey, surrender. They lit him up. I don't think Bonnie and Clyde even got a shot off before they were just riddled with bullets. And as someone who believes in civil liberties, should cops be doing that? No. But what do we do? I mean, does the governor declare martial law and send the National Guard in there, go shoulder to shoulder and start cleaning these people out? And how do you, other than ones that are on video, obviously their faces were pretty well exposed. But other than that, how do you identify a gang member from just another migrant?
I don't know, but you got to do something about it. You can't let them take over a city. And that could happen in a heartbeat. It really could if you get enough of these guys together. Yeah,
I mean, it's time to go in there and start lighting people up. And that's the only way that's going to be cured.
Strength.
That's the only way that...
you got to show strength and force. That's what's going to deter it.
Yeah, look, ambush is get into a vacant apartment that they like to beat the doors down on, put sandbags up and lay an M60 behind there. And as soon as that door cracks open and somebody that trying to break in, light them up, open fire. That's going to be the only way to scare these folks off. And what they'll do is once you harden a target, they will move to the next target that's softer. They're not interested in a war. They'll just move to the next easier target. All right, Vive Liberté no more. France goes full anti-free speech.
Yeah, this was. I bet 99% of people listening or around the world probably hadn't heard of this, but yeah, the CEO and co-founder of Telegram, which is an encrypted messaging app, showed up in France last week, and he was just there on a business trip, and French authorities locked him up. And they're charging with all kind of crimes that carry, like 10 years in prison and big fines. But they say they basically, the French are alleging there's all kind of criminal activity going on Telegram, which again is an encrypted messaging service. And he's not doing anything to stop that illegal activity, is what they're saying.
It's not his job.
It's not his job. Not at all.
A lot of illegal things happen on the streets. Should we ban government? Oh, okay, that's actually not a bad idea. But we have illegal things going on all over the place. We don't blame the establishment for getting robbed. We don't. If two people are having an illegal conversation at a restaurant, we don't shut the restaurant down. We go after the two people having the illegal conversation.
No, I agree.
And what they're saying is essentially the restaurant owner is responsible for the conversation that's going on at a table way in the back.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on here. Yep.
And as a country who's founded in taverns and bars having secret conversations away from the ear of government, This is the modern version of that.
Yeah, and they say Elon Musk now is really starting to
He's in
figure out where he wants to go and where he doesn't want to go, right? Because he's afraid if he flies to France, they're going to arrest him for something going on Twitter or
actually
X.
or Brazil.
Or Brazil, right?
A judge in Brazil just made X illegal. You can't use X in Brazil anymore, which is amazing to me. You to call yourself I hate the word democracy because nobody's a democracy, but to call yourself a free society and then say, oh, well, you won't censor things the way we want you to, therefore your platform's banned.
I know. So this is a scary little deal. I mean, you see the same thing this is becoming a pattern in Europe, but you see, and not the Great Britain's in Europe anymore after Brexit, but you see where Great Britain's locking people up for speaking online about, illegal aliens over there. And yeah, it's Europe is really, really, really cracking down on free speech and the stuff that happens over there comes this way a lot of times. And this is where we're one election away. We always say this, but we're one election away from losing the First Amendment.
You have much of Europe, Canada. You get locked up in Canada for saying the wrong thing.
Yep.
When I was up there a couple of months ago, I minded my P's and Q's because I'm outside of my home country. And they would think nothing of throwing me in the clink. All right, speaking of being in the clink, we have Cash App and contraband. So the new scam is to use Cash App, or prisoners using Cash App.
Okay.
So they can pay for contraband. And some of these reports there's code words. This was even the report out of the Fulton County Jail this last week, talking about they have something called, I think, Tom Brady. If they say Tom Brady's for somebody throwing something over the wall, they're using drones to drop stuff, smuggling stuff in, but they're using Cash App to pay for it all.
I don't know how this happens. I know how it happens, right? But still, this is over $1 million of contraband is going in and out of this jail. Is that what they're saying?
Yep.
There's all kind of people locked up. There's like 13 people up under either that have been arrested or that are being questioned around all this stuff. But yeah, they said cell phones, weed, Percocets, Molly, Xbox controllers. I mean, yeah, this is crazy. But yeah, they're literally fishing lines, throwing them over the side, or taking drones and dropping stuff inside. Oh, goodness.
Look, the jail needs to be replaced, and the city of Atlanta does not want to do it, or Fulton County does not want to do it. They've set aside like $300 million for renovations or something like that. But this is execution more than it is anything else.
Yep.
The jail is just a jail. You're not supposed to be there for long enough to create these criminal enterprises. You're supposed to be in jail, pretrial detention, and then if you're sentenced and you go to county jail, it's less than a year. It's a misdemeanor. Otherwise, you end up in prison. And in prison, you have considerably more time to go out and create these enterprises and pass them from one to the other. I was talking to a PA, a physician's assistant that works at Fulton County Jail, and she said the game up there right now is finding someone who's in on a minor misdemeanor and sucking them into a felony, because to them that's amusing. These folks know they're pretrial, they're going to prison, so it's a game for them to suck other people that may be in there for simple possession. And they're waiting for the trial is to get them into a fight, get them into something else to bring other charges and smack them with a felony.
Yep.
I don't know what they get out of it other than entertainment, but that's what they do. According to her anyway. And she said they're dealing with stabbings and it's stuff that we don't deal with in our county jail very often. I mean, you may get the occasional fight, but our county jail is much smaller, obviously, than Fulton County. And it's way more modern in the way they have pods separated and things like that. So they don't have the conflict that you have in Fulton County. And honestly, to the sheriff's credit in Fulton County, there's not a whole hell of a lot he can do about it. The population has exploded. The DA is not clearing out cases. These DAs, much like Barclay Black down in South Georgia, are pushing for no bail on possession charges and things like that. Now, obviously, if someone's picked up for murder, they may end up being remanded without bail. But I'm talking about, you get caught with a quarter bag of weed in your pocket. Something like that.
Yep.
But it's amazing to me that they've been at Fulton County long enough to create a criminal enterprise. This probably dates back to before COVID. There have been people sitting there pre-trial since before COVID because the DA in Fulton County, Fannie, won't do her damn job. All right, so the Justice Department blasted the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Incompetence.
Yeah, it sounds like they just, this Justice Department Inspector General, he sampled 327 cases and found that 42 were so deficient that the auditors felt compelled to contact FBI and urge immediate action. It's basically that FBI was not following up on any of these cases that were being investigated. They were sitting on these cases, not taking the investigative steps they needed to. This all kind of came out of the Nassar case years ago, where the FBI Director Christopher Wray assured Congress and the public this would never happen again. But yeah, it's just it's just a total lack of oversight at FBI around child abuse.
And it's not for lack of funds. It's not for lack of resources. Every cop in this country wants the FBI to call them and say, hey, would you like to be a special agent? They don't have a recruiting problem. They have an execution problem. They have a leadership problem. And it comes from the top. It's toxic leadership. It's covering your assets. And it's honestly a feeling of security. Once you're in the bureaucracy, you can't fire me. But when it comes down to children who are abused more than a year after the initial report was made,
yep,
and a child living with being abused for another 15 months before the FBI, in fact, the FBI never got around to it. The auditor found it.
Yeah, right.
And they said, what the hell are you doing with this case? And all the auditor's guy was, we're working on it. This is a good time to remind you these are our opinions, not those of anyone not on the show or any respective company for which we may work, own, or otherwise associate ourselves with on a regular or irregular basis. Also, you can find other episodes and relevant stories over the GeorgiaVirtue.com. I kind of found the mule this week. A friend of mine had this up on her Facebook page. An employee at Wells Fargo in Tempe, Arizona, checked into work, clocked in Friday, and a mostly empty floor, died. It wasn't discovered until Monday.
Goodness.
In her cubicle. You're talking about working to the day you die.
I know.
Other employees, I guess Monday, said they smelled something but thought it was a problem with the plumbing. So this has been a show of sad stories.
It has.
I'd say the mule is nobody on that floor checked on him. Nobody within HR, nothing came up like an email to a supervisor like, hey, so-and-so hasn't clocked out. Clocked in, 8 o'clock Friday morning, but it hasn't clocked out and it's now Saturday. I don't know if they could have saved her, but yeah, she was on a mostly empty floor in a cubicle.
I guess working there by herself, mainly. Yeah,
for the most part, yeah. Yeah.
Just came in on Friday and died or something and found her Monday or Tuesday the next week.
Yeah, we won't know the cause of death. And it may never make the news what the cause of death is. She may just sat there and had a heart attack or a stroke or aneurysm and just dropped at her desk. But no one checked on this woman. Nobody. All I can think of is Milton from Office Space.
Yep.
That we're going to need you to go ahead and move your desk into the basement.
Oh, I know that movie. Yeah, that they kept just moving Milton further and further down.
Yeah, we need to put your desk all the way back against the wall
till he burnt down the building.
Yeah, exactly. You have to talk to payroll. I didn't get my paycheck. Oh, you need to talk to payroll. Yeah. So it's not funny, but it is again it's a real life example of what not long ago was a joke.
Yep.
And I don't think this would have happened if more people were going into the office and fewer people were telecommuting.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where hey, I haven't seen so-and-so at the water cooler today. Let me go check on her. All right, so Georgia parents beg the government to parent their kids for them.
Yeah.
This is an online protection group called
Parents
held
Together.
parents together held a day of action.
Yeah, they held this day of action at the Georgia Capitol. They sent a letter to Meta. They basically want, and this came from Stephen Carnes. He lives in Rome, Georgia. His daughter, Erin, met a sextortionist posing as a teen through an online game over Facebook. And her dad said that this man convinced Erin that they were in a relationship. He solicited images from her, then told her to kill herself. She was 15 when her younger sister found her dead by suicide. Terrible story, right, of doing this. So they're asking Facebook and Instagram to put more, I guess, parental controls over this. And, looking at this from the outside in, yes, but I also saw some people commenting that the easiest way to stop your kids from getting into situations on Facebook and Instagram when they're 15 years old is to don't allow them to have access to Facebook and Instagram. So I sort of see both sides of this. It's terrible that they're allowing this type, and can they put in more monitoring over their applications to be able to figure out, AI is huge nowadays. We know artificial intelligence is huge. So you would have to, there's got to be some way that Facebook can put more AI stuff in where they can see these messages and understand what's going on. But also the parents have to take a little bit of parental responsibility and talk with their kids and see what their kids are doing online, and there's plenty of controls, like Bark is a tool that monitors your kids' online activity and reports anytime they send messages. So there's ways that parents can do this too. And I don't like the one-sided nature of this, of just saying, Facebook, you've got to do everything. We're going to sit back and continue to give our kids a phone when they're 8 years old and not be injected in part of their life online.
And they do have Facebook Messenger for kids.
Yep.
And I get messages from my nephews every once in a while, particularly when we're supposed to go over that day. Like, what time are you coming? Should Facebook do something? Here's the deal with the AI, is it doesn't stop with predators. That AI will eventually go into your private messages. And can you imagine if some of the private chats that previous hosts were all in? Some of the jokes that we send, some of the smart ass comments that we. Now imagine if Facebook had an AI going, oh, these are extremists, or something like that, and
100% could. I mean, you got local law enforcement showing up at your door at some point,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of like when you say that Trump would kill Biden. It was obviously, because you can tell, because we're speaking, obviously meant in the political arena.
It's like when Trump said a year ago there was going to be a bloodbath if he didn't win this year, and he was talking towards the Chinese continuing to build cars, and it was going to be a bloodbath on car manufacturers in Michigan building cars, like it was going to be a bloodbath to them economically. But you've got to understand context.
Right, you put that in print, take it out of context, and it sounds like a threat against the president's life.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So an AI I don't think it's advanced to the point where it gets nuance or context. It'll take that one phrase out and it'll go bing, alert. Parents need to parent. And look, if Meta wants to do something, and as a private organization, fine. But the fact that they went to the Capitol says, please, Daddy Government,
fix
parent
our
children. Yeah, parent our children for us. And the problem with government is, over the last 100 years, it has slowly taken control away from the parents within the school system. So now, parents who are now the fourth and fifth generation of growing up, being reared by the government, now it's like, well, what do we do? Someone raised my child. And look, what happened was horrible. But you have to, when you talk about government, you have to realize it's the theory of let no crisis go to waste.
Yep.
Is that this is a crisis. This is a horrible story. There were lots of things missed, whether it's by the parents. Did they educate their daughter and say, look, there are predators out there. This is what they do. This is what catfishing is. That this is what you'll find grown adults that will pose as children. And that's a very important conversation to have with young people, whether it's boys or girls, because predators are after both of them.
Yep.
is to explain to them that, first of all, online isn't real. The person you're talking to isn't real. The person that you can actually shake hands with is real. But the person that's gaming with you, you're not in a relationship. You're not in a relationship chatting back and forth. That's not a relationship. If you're gaming with somebody and it's this, I don't know, Call of Duty or whatever, and I guess people have they have appointments where they go on missions, they do the same time every week or whatever, and you may get to be friendly with each other, but you're not, if you don't meet in the real world, you're not friends.
No, not at all.
You're acquaintances. I mean, you know, I say that as somebody that you and I've never met. But, you know, we have real honest conversations, you know, at least once a week. If not, if I see some real BS, I'll call you on a Wednesday. You see this? But the person you're chatting with over Call of Duty is not your gaming friends, your imaginary friends. But to do real life stuff, like take nude pictures of yourself and send it, particularly as a minor. And we also are overlooking the fact that the government already says that's illegal. Collecting naked pictures of minors is illegal. It's already federally illegal.
Yep.
Not that the FBI will do anything about it, but that's already illegal. What else do you want government to do? Do you really want government monitoring the private communications of free people within the United States? No, of course not. But it's when we see a tragedy like this, like, well, why wasn't this caught by the government? Why wasn't this caught by Meta? When we find the shooter at Butler, well, why wasn't that caught by the FBI? He was, he came up with the radar. Why weren't they listening to his conversations? Because it's illegal, and it's illegal because we live in a free society, and freedom is sometimes dangerous.
Yep.
So as we're running long and I'm on my soapbox, Kenneth, what is your closing thought?
No, well, it looks like as this show drops, we're going to be starting to get into some fall weather. So can't wait for this time of year, football season. I do some deer hunting and dove hunting. I think we're getting past summer and into September. It's going to be a good fall season. Can't wait to see what happens over the next couple months from a political standpoint.
Yeah, well, if you're a political junkie like we are, this is the culmination. I mean, it happens every couple years, and every 4 years we get the big national stuff on it. So yeah, it's very interesting. Boo on the cool weather. I like it hot because I make money when it's hot. You know, it's a happy time of year because as we record, everybody but FSU is undefeated, and as a Gator, I enjoy saying that. So. Big thanks to Eric Cumby, who takes our awful audio and turns it into something to listen to. My part in this endeavor, Commissioner-elect Ken Pullen. I'm Dave Roberts. We'll talk to you next week.
Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon. They sing on a sleepless night. Try to catch me howling at the moon.